political system or forms of government called oligarchy. Oligarchy may be defined as a government ruled by privileged and powerful people. This form of government is a selfish one because short a government rules only for the benefit of those few people in power. That is oligarchy. That is a government that is being ruled by privileged and powerful people. And this form of government, their objective is not to cater for everybody, but to cater for the few privileged in society. So let's also try to examine another forms of government called monarchy. A monarchy may be defined as a type of government by one individual. This individual may be a king or queen or emperor. However, it should be noted that hereditary monarchy is a normal type, but elective forms do exist also. The essence of monarchy is a personification of the majesty and sovereignty of the state in an individual. So let's look at characteristics of monarchy. 1. Ownership of government. The government of the country is in the hands of a king, emperor or queen. Then also is a age-long form of government. Monarchy is an age-long form of government. It has been in existence for centuries. So another characteristic is heredity. It is a type of government that is based on heredity pattern. In monarch, you don't have to elect the king. You don't have to elect the president. The king or queen, the emperor or empress. You don't have president, but you have a king or queen, an emperor or empress. So you don't have to elect these people. They come to power based on inheritance. Let's say, for instance, if the father is a king, immediately the demise of the father, the son automatically become the next king. So it is based on heredity. Then of course, no constitutional limitations. In some forms of monarchy, example, the absolute monarch, ruler has no constitutional limitations, especially the absolute monarch system. There is no limitations with regards to the powers of the king. Then it has stable political system. Monarchy can bring about a stable political system in as much as nobody is fighting for power, and it is only few privileged in society that have the opportunity to rule. So it has a tendency of bringing a stable political system. Then we look at also the types of monarchy. One, we have two types of monarchy. We have constitutional monarchy and we have absolute monarchy. The constitutional monarchy, a constitutional monarchy is the one that is subjected to legal limitations. The powers is regulated by the constitution. So the monarch can promulgate those laws which are agreed to be the elected parliament. So in a constitutional monarchy, the powers of the king or the monarch, they are being limited by the constitutions. So example of countries that practice constitutional monarchy, like you have England. The queen in England is an example of a constitutional monarch. The king or queen in England, his or her powers are being limited by the constitution. They also have absolute monarchy. In an absolute monarchy, is not subjected to any legal limitations. This occurs when there is no established constitutional authority to check the king's power. So for example, you have countries like, before now, people like Frederick the Great of Russia from 1743 to 1786. Also like in Saudi Arabia, Norway. All of these people are absolute monarch, because their powers are not limited by constitutions. In fact, this occurs when there is no established constitutional authority to check these powers, their powers. So we refer to these categories of monarchy as absolute monarchy. So these are the two types we have: constitutional monarchy and that of absolute monarchy. So we look at another forms of government called republicanism. A republican form of government can be defined as a sovereign state headed by a president elected for a fixed offices. Unlike a monarchy, succession to the office of a head of state is non-hereditary but elective. in a representative democracy in which government is by the consent of the people. Cameroon, Niger, Chad, USA, India are examples of a republican government. So in a republican form of government, it is normally being headed by a president, whereas in a monarchy forms of government, it's normally being headed by a king or queen. And also the sharp difference or the major difference between republicanism and monarchy is that in republicanism, the head of government, or who is normally the president, comes to power through an elections. It's not an hereditary, and it is more common in representative democracy, where the leader comes to power by the consent of the people. But in the case of a monarchy, the king or queen does not come to power by the consent of the people, because it's based on hereditary. So let's look at the characteristics of a republican government. One is popular representation. It is a government based on popular representation of the interests of people in society are represented by elected representatives. Also, popular elections. Succession to different political offices is through elections. Periodic elections. Elections are usually periodic in some political system. It could be every 4 or 5 years, as the case may be. Then equality of citizens. The citizens have equal opportunity to vote and to contest any elective post in the system. You also have popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty is with the people. The people have the ultimate power to elect their political leaders. Political responsibility. The political leaders must be responsible and accountable to the people they are ruling. You have the rule of law. This is the supremacy of the constitutions, and rules must be abided by its provisions. So one of the characteristics of a republican government is that, one, there is a popular elections. All those who occupy public offices or political offices, they come there to elections. For instance, the honorable members of parliament, the president. We move on to the council. You have the councillors, the mayor, the district chairpersons. They come to power through elections. That is what happened. Well, like in the monarchical system, those people do not come to power through elections. They come to power through inheritance. Then there is a periodic elections. It has a time bound, maybe after every 4 or 5 years, as the case may be for some countries. Equality of citizens. The citizens, all of them have equal opportunity. They have the right to become president. They also have the right to vote for somebody as president, which is not the case in a monarchical system, because in monarchy, it's only few people should rule, and they believe these people have divine rights. There is a political responsibility, and the citizens can also hold the government accountable. The leaders they've elected, that's why they are accountable to the people they are ruling. But in a monarchical system, in as much as these people are not elected, they are not elected by the citizen. They are not accountable to the people. Of course, you have the rule of law. That is, it is the supremacy of the constitution, that everybody must be abide by those provisions. But mind you, we talked about one of the types of monarch, like the absolute monarch, wherein the powers of the king, they are not limited by constitution. In fact, there are no constitutional provisions in order to check the powers of these people. So they have absolute powers. But in a republicanism, there is a rule of law. That is the supremacy of the constitutions, and the rules must be abide by its provisions. The rulers and even the citizens must also abide by the provisions of that constitution. That is the characteristics of what we refer to as republicanism. So let's look at the differences between republicanism and monarchy. One, the head of state is a president in republicanism, while monarchy, the king or queen, an emperor, is a head of state in a monarchy. Then in republican, he is popularly elected by the people, while in monarchy, he is not elected. In other words, he comes to power, he ascends to the throne, is hereditary. Then the president stays in office for a fixed term in republican, while there is no fixed term in monarchy. the king or queen remain to power till death. Then of course, elected representatives are responsible and accountable to the people in Republican, while representatives or officials in government are mostly appointed and therefore not responsible to the people in monarchy. In Republican